Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Seven Investing podcast. My name is Simon Erickson. Here at Seven Investing, we're here to empower you to invest in your future. And today we're going to be looking at a couple topics, mainly digital health and cloud computing, which have been hot markets for investors recently, but we think that there's a lot more growth and plenty of runway ahead for them. And I'm very fortunate to be joined by Richard Chu. Richard is an analyst at Saga Partners and Luca Capital. He focuses on investing on a variety of different topics. He's based somewhere, I think, Richard, between Ontario and Cleveland, Ohio. So thanks very much for joining Seven Investing here today.
Thanks for having me, Simon.
Richard, we're going to talk a little bit about digital healthcare and then also cloud computing in a little bit. But let's get started with kind of your journey and how you got into investing in the first place. I've read your story, but I'd love to hear you tell it. It seems like there's a lot of reading and really getting into the nitty gritty of the details.
Sure. So definitely, I'm sure that many of your viewers are already familiar with sort of my Twitter profile. It's Richard_Chu97. And I have my own sort of Substack newsletter where I go into more depth, but to sort of give you sort of the high level, basically I am sort of a year out of school right now. Really I'm still I recently started at Saga Partners, and it's investment advisory based in Cleveland. And before that, I was really working at EY, and I was doing technology consulting. So not your traditional background for someone working in the finance industry right now. But I was fortunate enough, because I always had an interest in investing, to really at the start of the year sort of start posting my thoughts on Twitter and sort of writing some in-depth articles on Seeking Alpha. And I figured that that was sort of a really good way to really sort of build my own track record and sort of get my own thesis out there and sort of connect with other like-minded investors. And so I'd say that's where my professional journey really started. And from there, I was introduced to Saga Partners, who had owned a position in Livongo at the time. And we've been talking ever since. In terms of my own investing, I started around mid 2018. And one of the first sort of resources that I've really felt helped me was the Motley Fool. And I know that you guys have personally you guys yourself, you definitely sort of made a big impact, because you were some of the first people that I followed on Twitter. So definitely it's great to be joined by you guys. And ever since then, I've really branched out and sort of read as much as I can, everything from annual letters to sort of investing books, both on investing philosophy as well as within tech investing itself. And I've learned so much over sort of the past year, and I'm continuing to learn so much every single day. So I'm sort of excited to share, I guess, sort of my knowledge so far.
Well, thanks very much, Richard. And to return the compliment back to you, I think that just the insight that you have, you're so detailed, so thorough in the research that you do. That's such an advantage for investors. You leave no stones unturned. I know that you said in your background, you kind of started reading on Reddit, a bunch of different online forums, posting to Seeking Alpha, posting to Twitter. I really have enjoyed a lot of your work. And I guess before we jump into the first topic that we'll talk about, which is digital healthcare, I wanted to kind of ask about your investing approach. How do you start looking for companies? Do you look at the top down, where you're looking at markets and you find opportunities from there, or you just go out and start reading a whole bunch of annual reports and find the right companies?
Yeah, so definitely, I'd say it really helps to sort of narrow my focus. Currently, my focus has been built up in SaaS and digital health. And mainly the sort of reason behind that is both because I find that these are some of the areas where are both huge in terms of the tailwinds behind them, in terms of sort of the macro move with companies shifting from on-prem to the cloud, as well as you look at digital health, especially with COVID, ever since COVID, that's where I've sort of really focused a lot of my energy. And the reason behind that is that I feel that COVID really opened the door in terms of a lot of these opportunities, both in terms of regulatory changes as well as sort of societal shifts in attitude. And these companies, I feel like they're disrupting sort of healthcare, which is something that both really needs to be disrupted and is one of the largest industries in the world. So definitely like that's where I focus most of my energy. And within those trends, I really pick out those companies that I feel are best positioned. So I'd say like it's really important, not like for me personally, I don't like sort of investing in sort of like a bucket of companies within like a potential trend that I like sort of really diving deep into each different company and sort of picking out sort of the leaders. And that's like some of the criteria that I look for. In my sort of Twitter and as well as my Substack, I've posted an investing checklist that I really look for in companies, including criteria like making sure that they are a category leader, making sure that they both have a wide moat and that they're continuing to build upon that moat by continuing to innovate, continuing to really have sort of that visionary leadership to know where they're heading and just continuing to sort of build like a more advantaged competitive position. I also really prefer companies that have recurring revenue, you know, like that elevator versus the typical staircase. And I also look for companies within large markets. So of course, digital health and SaaS, like they are huge industries, but like within them, you really have to sort of pick out which trends are going to be most durable. For example, in digital health, I'm like I prefer remote monitoring companies much more than sort of telemedicine pure plays. And that's the reasoning behind my investments within Teladoc and Huami, which we'll talk about later. And within sort of SaaS, like I guess typically like you can look at sort of all of these different sectors and trends within SaaS, like a couple of the companies that I prefer the most. Again, cybersecurity, like I think that typically cybersecurity is an area where it's hard to build durable competitive advantages. But you look at CrowdStrike and what they're doing with the threat graph, I feel like definitely the data network effects from that in terms of aggregating all that data and using it to stop breaches is definitely something that makes them special. I also think that Datadog, which I think we'll talk about later, is really well positioned within the trend of observability. So really sort of aggregating all of those different previously siloed monitoring tools together and helping sort of be sort of the picks and shovels to companies move to the cloud.
That's fantastic, Richard. I would encourage anyone watching or listening to this podcast to re-watch that section at least 4 or 5 more times. A ton of insight on how Richard's finding companies. Let's talk about the first one of those sectors that you mentioned, which is digital health. Just at the highest level, America alone is spending more than $3.5 trillion on healthcare every year. We know it's expensive. We know it's got problems and it's inefficient. But you mentioned in something that you wrote earlier that you thought that COVID-19 was an inflection point in the adoption of telemedicine. Can you start me out by kind of explaining what that means and why that would be?
Sure. So definitely like I feel like COVID like it opened up sort of a universe of opportunities within digital health. Telemedicine is one, and I was actually watching this Beth Kindig interview yesterday, and she said how VCs are dumping so much money into telehealth right now. I feel like this trend is sort of just beginning. And when you look at sort of telemedicine itself, like version 1 is companies like Teladoc, companies like Amwell. What were they doing? Like they were basically connecting, like providing an additional access point for consumers to reach doctors by. And when you look at sort of where that's going in the future, Teladoc's recent acquisition of Livongo should give you a clue to that. I feel like telemedicine itself is going to sort of really be integrated with remote monitoring in order to really form this new sort of preventative care delivery model. So what I mean by that is a lot of people say how, like telemedicine will never replace in-person visits because there's so much stuff within in-person visits, like the doctor, they have to like use like the stethoscope, like really sort of interact with you in person and get readings from there. And that can't really be done over video. And while that's true, you have stuff like remote monitoring, which is something that Livongo provides. So like what that basically means is that you have sort of this continuous monitoring using sort of connected devices like connected glucose meters, connected sort of heart rate monitors like within stuff like your Apple Watch or like all of that different stuff, and that sort of integrates with telemedicine. And basically the doctors, they have that continuous stream of data. It may not be as accurate as the stuff that you can get within sort of a medical setting, but you have sort of that continuous stream of data, which can really give you a much wider picture than what you would be getting from a single visit. Like you look at sort of the data from an Apple Watch, for example, like it can detect sort of diseases that you may not have even been aware of to know to go into a doctor's office. So that really shifts the equation from more of an acute care model to more of a preventive model. And what that creates is a better, more cost-effective healthcare system that produces better outcomes.
That makes a lot of sense. We've talked a lot about technology in healthcare over the years. Several years back, America passed the HITECH Act, which was really kind of more focused to hospitals, where they were trying to get them to adopt technology. It seems that, to your point about COVID accelerating this trend, we've now got an opportunity to introduce technology to the consumers, to the patients themselves, and let them to start adopt it. Richard, you actually at the end of 2019 picked Livongo as your top stock pick for 2020. First of all, congratulations, fantastic return that company's had this year. Excellent choice. It got acquired by Teladoc, as we all know, just a couple of months ago. How do you view this combined company? You know, Livongo, as you were mentioning just a minute ago, is kind of more preventative. It was a hardware device that's actually continually monitoring, and that seems to be a little bit more proactive than Teladoc, which was before just using kind of virtual health visits. Do you think these two companies are going to be really a lot stronger together, or is this an acquisition that's going to be tough to swallow?
Yeah, so I think like so far, definitely I've been really bullish on the merger. I've increased my position. It's now a significant portion of my portfolio. And I think that the market sort of hasn't been as appreciative of the merger. I think there are two main reasons for that. First, basically, is the merger overhang. Like a lot of people have been sort of concerned about the fact that Teladoc may be buying their growth. Like they've made 12 acquisitions over the past 8 years. And the Livongo merger is by far the biggest one. It came at a very, very costly price. And a lot of people have said that, hey, like Teladoc has run out of growth opportunities. So that's why they've been forced to pay up for Livongo. And the second reason being that COVID really is going to go away soon with the vaccine and potentially see like a drop in visits. So I think like definitely like on the second point, I've already explained how I see it as more of a durable trend. Combined with the fact that again, Teladoc gets like 75-80% of its revenues from subscription. So visit fees, it doesn't like really affect their revenue as much as someone like Amwell. But then you look at sort of the first point, and I think that the synergies from the acquisition are definitely going to be really game changing. Teladoc is launching virtual primary care next year, and what that basically is they can sort of integrate their full suite of services to really sort of help like sort of the 25% of Americans who don't have a primary care doctor. And when you think about that, like what kinds of opportunities does that provide? It provides really an end-to-end virtual experience where you first see your doctor through Teladoc for your annual primary care visit. They prescribe you maybe Livongo if you have diabetes, track you year-round, bring you in for visits only if you really need it, only if like the data shows that you need it, and then pair you up with like the Teladoc therapists, Teladoc nutritionists, like their entire suite of multidisciplinary care team, and they work together to really form a really holistic view of your health. It's breaking down all those pre-existing silos in healthcare that were preventing better outcomes and only adding to the costs. And I think that that is sort of a model that health plans and employers will really appreciate, and they will sort of embrace virtual primary care in the future. And Teladoc can potentially even share in those savings with like new value-based care models. On the other hand, with really their virtual primary care offering, it's like an incredible like 95%, like plus 95 net promoter score. So I'm really bullish on that opportunity, and I think that the market will soon sort of come around once they sort of see it.
A net promoter score of 95 is incredibly high, by the way.
Yeah.
NPS can run from negative 100 to plus 100. So this is what Richard's saying is very well received by the patients that are using it. Okay, great. So Teladoc, it sounds like you think there's still plenty of room to run after this acquisition. Let's talk about another company on your list for digital healthcare, because somewhere else we're spending a lot of money on is prescription drugs. And there's a company that you like called GoodRx. Tell me a little bit about this one.
So like basically, I think that to just like summarize the theme, like I guess the theme behind sort of GoodRx, the theme behind Teladoc, as you mentioned, is the fact that healthcare these days is so expensive, right? Like you mentioned that $4 trillion, 25% of that is considered waste. And what sort of Teladoc is doing is they're sort of changing the entire underlying infrastructure behind healthcare, fundamentally from like more of acute care perspective to more of a preventative model. And what you're looking at with GoodRx is they're helping patients to make sense of healthcare today. And like these days, like sort of 70% of consumers don't even realize that the prices between of drugs between different pharmacies, even like a block away, can vary dramatically, like upwards of like hundreds of percent. And what GoodRx does is they have a multifaceted platform, but their primary objective is to really help consumers access affordable healthcare. So they do that through their primary prescription comparison tool, which really allows consumers to go onto their website and compare drug prices across a variety of different pharmacies in their local area, bring the GoodRx app, the coupon on the app, or they can have a savings card. And from there, they can get up to 90% discounts on like almost all drugs across almost all pharmacies in the country. And so that's their primary platform. Like in terms of technicalities of how that works, I've written sort of a GoodRx article. And they also do telehealth. So what telehealth is basically like they have like a marketplace and they have their own Hey Doctor platform. So in terms of their marketplace, again, they aggregate all of the different telemedicine providers, and they allow consumers to have sort of the increased transparency to really see how much these different options cost and go from there. What they're doing as a whole, as you can see, is really empowering sort of the consumers to really have the tools in order to get the best deal for themselves. Like I'd say like healthcare itself is a very weird industry because like when you look at sort of prescriptions, especially, like it doesn't operate like a free market. Like the fact is that like and I get into this more in my article, the fact is that sort of the PBMs, like they obviously want to benefit from the spread. So like what they do is they have these MAC lists, which are the prices that they set for each drug, and they give like a different list to sort of the pharmacies. Like they reimburse the pharmacies less than what they buy, than the price that they charge to the actual insurers, and they benefit from that spread. So really, it's not sort of a free market. And what GoodRx does is like by bringing the increased transparency, the consumers, they have the choice to be able to really find the best deals, and as a result, it will sort of bring down prices across the board.
I'm glad you mentioned the PBMs, the pharmacy benefits managers, because this is an incredibly complex, I might even call it a black box industry, that for so many decades, nobody had any idea what drug prices were. The PBMs kind of sat between the drug makers and the pharmacies, and then they were getting paid by the insurers at the end of the day. It was tricky. It was very complex on how all of this was taking place. Can you tell me a little bit about how GoodRx is actually making money? How are they monetizing? I can see how this is very good for consumers at the end of the day because they're saving money and there's more transparency into the drug pricing. How are they actually getting paid?
Sure. So basically, what GoodRx does is they aggregate the prices across all the different PBMs. Like the PBMs, they negotiate their in-network cash prices with all the different pharmacies under the networks. And what like their incentive is that because they want to access the increased volume from GoodRx. Like GoodRx, if you guys don't know, it's the second most popular medical app on the App Store. It has 4.9 million monthly active users. That's huge. And basically, like, they want to access that demand because it basically, like, it's an incremental source of margin. Doesn't come as any cost to them. They want to maximize the prices that they negotiate. So they partner with GoodRx, and GoodRx then allows different PBMs to compete against each other to like access their GoodRx's user base. By hey, like, I may have the best price for this drug while you may have the best price for the other drug. So GoodRx customers get the best prices across the board. And that's also another reason why I don't really see Amazon really competing with them in terms of prices in the near term, is because Amazon only partners with one PBM, Express Scripts. So GoodRx has the advantage here by being independent. PBMs also don't want to work with Amazon because they have their own pharmacy. Like they're pushing their own sort of mail order pharmacy. So what GoodRx does is they aggregate those prices, and for every time a consumer goes to a pharmacy, the pharmacy charges sort of a transaction cost per drug. So half of that goes to the PBM, the other half goes to GoodRx. So they make again money off of each prescription. And the cool thing about that is that like 80% is repeat activity. So like 80% of that prescription revenue is repeat. So it's like kind of that very predictable recurring revenue sort of SaaS model. And really sort of the reason behind that is because like it's really safe, like the coupons are safe. So like consumers don't have to like show their coupon every single time they go to the pharmacy. Like it's say within the terminal. So like it actually, again, produces repeat foot traffic to the pharmacy. So the pharmacy can benefit from that as well.
Sounds like great data advantage. I mean, so much information going on. I can see the appeal immediately for something like this. Okay, great. GoodRx. Let's move to a third company that you're watching in the space. This one was new to me, Richard. This is one that was definitely not on my radar before. I believe it's pronounced Huami. Yeah. HMI is the name of the ticker for this company, making wearable devices in China. Tell me a little bit about this one.
Sure. So this idea I got recently from Sabid's Cap on Twitter. And what it basically is that it's sort of a smartwatch maker in China. They accounted for around like sort of mid-20s percentage in terms of the shipments of the total smartwatches in 2019. So they account for almost a quarter of global shipments of smartwatches, yet very few people have heard of them. When you look at the future of preventive health, like as I mentioned, like I'm very bullish on remote monitoring, and Livongo, again, it produces the devices that Teladoc physicians can track patients by. But outside of the glucose meters, like outside of the devices specified for people with chronic conditions, regular people can be monitored too. So when you look at sort of the smartwatch, like I think that a lot of people are missing the fact is that a lot of people think that, hey, like a smartwatch is disruptive to what? Like, is it disruptive to the traditional watch industry? I don't think so. Is a smartwatch just an extension of the smartphone? I don't think that's it either. Like what a smartwatch really sort of the potential with a smartwatch is that it can track it it really enables this idea of like hospital in the home. Like you can have your smartwatch track an increasing amount of metrics. Like you look at Apple's EKG sensor, you look at their new blood oxygen sensor. There's been studies that have proven that smartwatches can detect COVID before you have symptoms. So that's one example of the fact that smartwatches can have these huge, like it generates a huge amount of health data. We aren't even close to being able to mine that. And what Huami is it's a play on that health data. So like they have all of this, they're collecting, like they have all of these cheap devices, like they're sort of one of the leaders within sort of the low cost segment of smartwatches. And they're sort of the leader in that. They have this huge amount of data. They partner with Xiaomi, and they have this huge amount of data that they're collecting, and like all the sensors on each of these different watches, like they're all standardized, like they're all the same quality. Doesn't matter if you have like a $30 watch, doesn't matter if you have a $200 watch. The founder has this vision to really collect all that data and then sort of partner with these insurers, with these employers, and they have like their own sort of Pi Health, which is their own sort of digital health sort of guide, which gives consumers a score of out of 100 to tell you where sort of their health is based on the quality of their heart rate data. So it really sort of nudges consumers to better health, and that can really improve sort of the outcomes by shifting us again to that sort of preventative healthcare model. Like you look at Singapore, they're partnered currently with Apple to give Apple Watches to people, and people can earn rewards by achieving certain metrics on their Apple Watch. So that's keeping people healthy, and that is going to reduce the burden of the healthcare system as a whole.
When we think about smart devices, wearable devices, Fitbit immediately comes to mind in the United States. A very difficult investment. It was always kind of stuck as just a hardware provider. But it sounds like Fitbit never really had those kind of close integrations with the insurers, with the hospitals, with the healthcare system itself. It sounds though that Huami is or does have those kind of relationships. So was that one of the key selling points for you on this investment?
Yeah, I mean, it's still important to note that it's very, very early. They said that they don't expect any sort of meaningful revenue contribution in terms of this health services opportunity anytime soon. So they already have like 20 plus partnerships with different academic institutions. They have a partnership with Prudential Asia, which is this big insurer. And they have sort of their own sort of Pi Health algorithm incorporated into their digital health app, and consumers can buy their watches directly from there. So in terms of that, like that's something that they're doing. I really feel like their pace of innovation is extraordinary, and that's something that I want to bet on. I also think that's great that they're profitable already. That's something that Fitbit still doesn't have. And you're also looking at the fact that again, like they're sort of building out these recurring revenue models, and they have sort of this greater vision, which they've sort of been great at executing at. And I feel like that's sort of a differentiator here. But again, they need to be more than what they are today, which is just sort of a commoditized hardware manufacturer in order to be a successful investment.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much, Richard. So 3 ideas that Richard has there within digital healthcare. Again, we went with Teladoc, TDOC, GoodRx, GDRX, and then Huami, HMI. Richard, while I have you on the show here with 7 Investing, you know I've got to ask you about cloud computing and about enterprise software. Again, another area that I know that you focus pretty closely on. I'm a big fan of your research in that place. But I have more targeted questions on this one. These are kind of some of the stories we've seen in 2020 that I'd really like to hear your opinion on. Are you ready to jump into cloud computing and enterprise software?
Sure.
Okay. Well, the first one that I wanted to set you up with on this one was Alteryx, because Alteryx, not technically a SaaS company, but this is a company that's really trying to embrace, I believe they're calling them citizen data scientists. So it's making it low code, very easy for people to use things like artificial intelligence and jump into the data that these companies have. We saw Alteryx a couple of months ago in August give up a third of its market cap on weak guidance. It said that, a lot of people were seeing longer sales cycles and smaller deal sizes. Of course, the market just cut this one by a third really quickly. Do you have thoughts on Alteryx as a long-term investment? Is this short-sighted, or is there still the long-term thesis intact?
Sure. So I think it's important to note that I personally have sold out of Alteryx recently, and I'd say sort of it's really, really hard to tell if they will get back on track. Like, I think it's easy right now to say that, hey, like sort of the pandemic has slowed them down. They reported like 25% growth last quarter. They're guiding for around like -4% growth next quarter. And they expect a year-over-year decline in revenue in 2021. They, like last quarter, again, like despite the fact that they reported like 25% growth, which is a re-acceleration, they did report the lowest customer growth since 2017. And that is sort of a point of concern when placed with everything else. Like, I think that a lot of sort of the volatility has come from the fact that, and people have noted this, is the fact that they weren't really communicative of sort of the impact that 606 accounting had on their revenue. So basically for on-premise software, they have to recognize like 35 to 40% of their total contract value upfront. And after COVID, like what that happened, that resulted in shorter contract durations. And analytics wasn't exactly a top priority for many of these organizations, So you really saw a very, very steep drop in revenue. And when you look at sort of the ARR front, that picture is a little bit brighter because they reported like 38% growth last quarter, and they're guiding for at least 30% in 2021. And management has indicated that this is a better way to measure the business. But I think sort of that's not my main issue. Like my main issue was basically with the fact that I feel that the company is less better positioned today than it was before COVID. And first of all, like I'd say that what really got me was the fact that the CEO transition from Dean to Mark Anderson, like I didn't really feel that was well handled. It seemed like Dean was even ousted almost. And like he's been running the company for like over 20 years. He's the founder, and he recently announced like all these different new initiatives like analytics, process automation. And that's a huge initiative. Like he's been saying how, you know, like Alteryx has innovated the most in the past couple of months than they have ever before in its life. And now when you're looking back, I'm asking like, how is this new CEO, Mark Anderson, going to take that vision and sort of carry that torch forward? I don't know if he can. And it seemed in retrospect that this was more a defensive move, if anything, seeing that they were falling behind the curve, the fact that they chose to remain on premise as opposed to embrace the cloud. And I feel like another part is really when you look at sort of the wider environment. Now that Snowflake is public, we know a lot more about how fast it's growing. And when you look at Snowflake, like I think the vision with Alteryx is that, hey, like data is going to continue to remain in silos. But now when you have these centralized data lakes, what does that mean for Alteryx's place? Like, is it going to get disintermediaried? So if you look at Designer, like it allows users to sort of load, clean, prep, and blend data together, and then sort of analyze it, apply machine learning, create visualizations, and like if Snowflake like takes a chunk out of that, like what place left is there for Alteryx? It's just going to be handling sort of the analytics almost. So I think that definitely Alteryx has tried to partner with Snowflake, but I don't think that they have a partnership yet. I just see Snowflake as being better positioned on the value chain. So that's another point that really sort of scared me away, I feel. I think that overall the investment could turn out successful. They could definitely have, again, that re-acceleration 2021. I feel like the comps right now, they're quite favorable. And if they can re-accelerate their contracts and their customer growth, then it could very well, again, see that impact of very, very fast revenue acceleration.
I think that's some great insight there, especially when you see that everyone is kind of saying the same thing in their conference calls. Oh, it's COVID. Oh, the deals are smaller. Oh, you know, it's harder to close. But then you see the reality of kind of the must-haves and the nice-to-haves that CIOs or decision makers are having to be faced with right now. Some companies are really growing quickly, even in the time of COVID, and others are decreasing in their revenue contribution. So interesting points about Alteryx there. I want to ask you about another one, Richard. Agora out in China. Ticker on this is API. It's been called by a lot of people the Twilio of China. I know you don't really like that description so much, but tell me a little bit about kind of what this company is doing.
Sure. So what Agora is that again, I feel like you could like with the knowledge of Twilio, you could also understand Agora because again, like it's that idea of programmable video, and that's a component of what Twilio does as well. But I think like what really differentiates Agora is the fact that they are really focused on live streaming. They're focused on sort of bigger audience sizes. Like Twilio, it's mainly for group chats. Like it's up to 50 people, whereas with Agora, you can have like around like 15 to like 18 or something hosts, and you can have up to 1 million audience members. So that's something that really differentiates them. They have their own sort of specialized edge network, which they call like again like a network of 250 points of presence all over the globe with their software-defined real-time network layered on top. And that allows them to really sort of improve latency, improve sort of video quality, and sort of deliver that superior customer experience than someone with fewer points of presence, like you look at Twilio. But I like they've done sort of pretty well so far in terms of the revenue growth, but like definitely they took sort of a big deceleration last quarter in terms of their revenue growth and gross margins, which is quite concerning, along with the fact that Zoom recently announced a programmable video product where they're allowing people to have their own customizable software development kit. And Twilio, again, is moving more and more into video. So right now, even though they don't have sort of the same capability as Agora in terms of live streaming, I feel that, again, like technology isn't a moat, and Agora will need to compete more favorable, like in order to retain sort of their value in the future. I feel like they need something else to differentiate them. And I'm not really that confident that they really sort of have that yet.
So not super bullish on Agora. There's an opportunity for live streaming and video in China, but still there's some question marks, it sounds like, that you have about this company.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity because like with like live stream shopping, like you look at the fact that, you know, like Shopify recently announced like they're a partner of TikTok even. It's like a huge opportunity, but like so far, like the results haven't come down to their financials yet. I was sort of disappointed to see sort of the pace of revenue deceleration, and they mentioned that their biggest opportunity is in education. They don't have that many live streaming live stream e-commerce customers. So it's still sort of a question mark on me with that investment.
That's an interesting segue for the next topic that I want to get into, because Agora was founded in 2013 out in Silicon Valley by Tony Zhao, who also worked at WebEx with Eric Yuan, who went on to, found Zoom, has been very successful with that. But, I've seen some of your analysis kind of suggesting there might be a decoupling or debundling of Zoom, where these companies that kind of go out and they say, okay, we're an opportunity for any industry out there. But then you've got kind of things like Agora that are allowing industry specific verticals to pop up that are specific for certain spaces. You mentioned education. I know another one is gaming. Gaming is really big on live streaming right now. The relationship between a company like Agora and something like Zoom is certainly interesting and one to keep an eye on. So Zoom's my next topic. I guess I wanted to ask you about, Richard, because Zoom stock is up over 500% in 2020. It's generally recognized as the poster child of the work from home COVID beneficiary out there. But again, I mean, we've kind of seen Zoom grow so quickly, and it seems like there might be other competitors that are at least interested in this space. Do you think that Zoom's momentum that they're on right now can continue?
Yeah, so with Zoom, I feel like, of course, like their Q2 was amazing in terms of the acceleration. Their Q3, it saw more of a sequential slowdown. And I feel like sort of the main components of the thesis, again, is the fact that because of the fact that in the beginning, they didn't really have switching costs. They didn't have much of a moat in terms of that, which allowed them to go viral very, very quickly, because it was so quickly to just like it was so easy to just install. And once sort of COVID hit, it was sort of the go-to solution for both enterprises and consumers, which was really interesting to see. Now, like, is it sustainable is the question. And I think that mainly it's great to see the fact that they're taking advantage of their network effects, because I don't feel like network effects in themselves, without sort of switching costs as well, are much of a moat. because like if a new solution that like if a better technology comes along, like those can reverse really quickly. Can Zoom maintain that technological advantage? I don't know if they can for the next like 10 years. Like, even though big tech has historically not done so well in this category, could they eventually sort of match Zoom's capability? Maybe. It's quite possible. So what really excited me was the fact that they were sort of branching to become more of a platform play. And that was seen with OnZoom, which is their events marketplace, and the fact that they opened up their platform to be sort of a customizable SDK. And I feel like a Zoom phone is also another big driver. And I feel like really sort of it's those opportunities that will really push them into that next leg of growth. But again, like sort of last conference call, even though the numbers were great on the surface, like it was kind of disappointing that they mentioned that they don't expect OnZoom to be a material revenue driver in 2021. It'll also take time for Zoom phone to really take off, as well. It's not going to be driving top line anytime soon. So again, it's really, really hard at this point to predict where the revenue growth will clock in at next year. Some people have said negative growth. Some people have said upwards of 50% growth. So I feel like a lot of it still depends on how like the overall macro work from home trend. So in terms of that, like there's been like recently like some great articles, like Not Boring wrote like a good one recently, and in that he really talked about how work from home is not going to go away that quickly, because it's not sort of a dichotomy between, you know, like you either spend like 100% of your time on Zoom or you spend 100% of your in the office. Companies are going to be forced to like really offer that opportunity in the future to work from home if you choose. And that opens up a new opportunity in terms of not only increased adoption of Zoom, but like also you can look at people moving around to like different countries, more travel in terms of going to like all these different locales to work. And I feel like that could definitely benefit the staying power of Zoom. But it's not like a company that I would sort of bet all my horses on right now. Like I still feel like they do well. Like I still feel like work from home, has staying power, and it's not like that on off shift that people think that the vaccine is going to make it out to be. But I really still need to see I guess more evidence of that playing out.
It's the land and expand software model, right? It's
Yeah.
amazing what they've accomplished this year. They've got a lot of users on the platform. Now it's that expand, like you were saying, the staying costs, the switching costs, the new Zoom phone, the software development kit, whatever it is, the platform to build things on top of it, to see if they've really got legs behind this.
Yeah.
Yeah, great, Richard. Well, just to wrap this all up, our mission here at Seven Investing is to empower others to be more involved with investing. I know that's something you're very passionate about as well. And so kind of just an open-ended final question for you is, if you're new to investing, or, you're trying to learn about the stock market and how all of this works, do you have a couple ideas or tips for people that are starting to figure out this whole crazy thing called the stock market?
Yeah, so I'd say like people should definitely read as much as possible. Like I feel like it's super, super important to really open your mind to like all these different perspectives. Like you don't really have to lock yourself in. Like I feel like sort of a mistake that maybe a lot of new investors make is the fact that they like read one guy, like they maybe have first exposure to Warren Buffett, and they sort of embrace Warren Buffett's philosophy without sort of considering all of the other ways to invest. Like everyone has different like you should definitely like read Buffett, of course. You should definitely read Phil Fisher. You should definitely read Peter Lynch. You should also sort of like, one book that I recently recommended was Seven Powers, and that really talks about competitive advantages. So you should read that too. Like there's also a ton of great sort of fund managers to follow. I feel like Joe, of course, like I worked for him, but even if I didn't, I feel like he's one of the best sort of investors that I met. Like his philosophy really resonates with me. So like Joe at Saga Partners. And like there's also like a bunch of other great resources. Like of course, like at Some of the Investing, you guys provide like such a great Like it doesn't cost that much per month either. So like I feel like readers, like listeners, like if you haven't like subscribed to like Seven Investing, it's definitely like a great resource. The write-ups, sorts of ideas are really helpful for new investors. And like there's also like some other sort of great resources on Twitter. Like I have my own sort of growth investing resource list, which is my pinned tweet. So definitely go and check that out as well. But yeah, just make sure that you have sort of the open perspective. Like I'm really like a fan of having this multidisciplinary approach to investing, because like you look at like there was this book that I was reading recently called Range, and that book, it basically talks about the importance of having sort of a multidisciplinary approach, and the ability to like think and connect the dots across like different sectors. So like with like closed sort of environments like chess, like, you know, like you make a move and you immediately get feedback, but it's different investing. In investing, you could get lucky for like a long time and you could think that your investing strategy is right for a long time, but you really need to like sort of bring sort of that holistic approach to like, I guess it personally helped me to like have that background in history, have that background in technology, have that background in accounting and finance, have that background in marketing, that background in psychology, even to determine like having a temperament. So bring all those together, I feel like it really makes you to be a better investor, because it allows you to think in a different way than most other market participants would. So definitely absorb as much as possible, read as much as possible.
Well, if I can summarize that, Richard, by saying stay hungry, read and absorb as much as possible, and keep a holistic and open mind, that's probably a good start for getting investing. Well, great. Thanks very much again to Richard Chu, our guest this afternoon. He is an investment analyst at Saga Partners and Luca Capital, joining me from Toronto. Richard, it was really great chatting with you. Thanks for joining me at Seven Investing.
Thanks for having me, Simon.
And it's our mission here at Seven Investing to empower you to invest in your future. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.